This video is about a camera, but in a way it's also about being an artist, how we inevitably create our own struggles. We twist our brain up in knots, not doing the thing we love, creating. It's about how gear doesn't matter, but also gear really does matter. Over the last few years, cameras have got really good and way cheaper, and we as photographers are more spoilt than ever. It has never been an easier time to create incredible images, but also what it means to be an artist has changed. We're competing on social media now. We're trying to push the boundaries as far as we can to stand out from everyone else, and it's easier than ever to convince yourself that whatever you're making and what you're making it with isn't good enough. So what does all of that have to do with the Nikon ZF? This is a full-frame 24 megapixel retro-inspired mirrorless camera. There are many cameras that outperform this one. There are also a few that some would call better value, like Nikon's own Z6 III, but this is my favorite. Let me show you why. To help make my point, here's my main still setup, the Nikon D750. I've been using this camera professionally for years, and it's been putting food on the table and art on the walls reliably since the day I got it. It's an absolute tank, and despite my best efforts, it's never let me down. But if the D750 is so good, then why did I want to try the Nikon ZF? And a big thank you, by the way, to the team at Nikon Posca for lending it to me. The materials of art, like the thumbnail sketch, seduce us with their potential. This D750 is a great tool, but I've been using it every day for so long to work that sometimes it feels like it's impossible to break out of my habits and to play. Very simply, this camera just doesn't inspire me anymore. It's a work tool and a great one, but it doesn't spark joy. And to me, that is the most important spec for any camera, not megapixels or burst speeds or frame rates. What matters above all else to me is how fun is it to use? Does it have soul? How does it inspire me to create? Because really, if you aren't actually enjoying using your camera to create stuff, who cares how good the autofocus is? Now, let me be clear, the ZF does not fall short in terms of performance. The autofocus is super quick. The sensor is clean and crispy, and the overall shooting experience is really smooth. And sure, this isn't a Z9 or a Sony A9, but those cameras to me still feel a bit like work tools, and when I'm trying to make art and trying to express myself, I want to be the only tool in the process. One thing I really love about the Nikon ZF is its pickup ability, as in you always want to pick it up and play with it. I've always been the take a camera everywhere guy, but recently I've been leaving the D750 at home, whereas with this, I do. And it's not just that it's smaller and easier to take with me, I want to take it with me because it's fun. I want to see what the world looks like through this camera, and I want to see what I can create with it. Now, I knew the ZF was cool looking, and I knew it was inspiring from the moment I held one, but what I didn't know is if it was going to keep up with me, which in hindsight is really dumb considering this thing is 10 years older. Here's the fun part. The Nikon ZF is ridiculously good. For me, the retro thing is less about making it feel more like a film camera and more just about giving it personality, making it different from every other camera out there, making it interesting. More importantly, obviously, the images. They look super. It's very familiar to work with compared to my D750 files, no surprises there, but they do have more flexibility in post, they have more dynamic range, they're a bit sharper, and it's easier to work with them. Yes, it's 24 megapixels. No, you don't need more than 24 megapixels. Pretty much ever. Unless, of course, you know way more about the specific thing that you're trying to achieve than I do, in which case, carry on. I also have to mention that the Nikon ZF is built like a battle cruiser, which we've come to expect from Nikon, which means I can see absolutely no issues with putting this camera through the abuse that my cameras unfortunately tend to get. There are some things about the Nikon ZF that bug me, I'll admit. The auto ISO implementation is a bit whack. It took me a while to wrap my head around, and now that I understand it, I like it, but it's not the most elegant. And I really wish there was a way to, by looking at the top of the camera, see how my auto ISO is doing. I also find it a real pain that the battery SD door isn't spring-loaded. Like, why? Also, you 100% need the small rig grip, okay? Like, I have fairly normal sized adult hands. You need the grip, okay? Throughout all of my testing with the Nikon ZF, I used the Nikkor 40mm f2. And when I first held it, I thought, ooh, plastic, fantastic, not good. And yes, the build quality of the 40 f2 is plasticky, right down to the lens mount. But as soon as I started using it, I went, oh, plastic, fantastic. The optics in this thing are outstanding. It has just the right amount of character whilst still being quite clean. The bokeh is perfectly al dente, and the focus motor is literally instant, like it's teleporting the lens elements to where they need to go. Here's where it gets interesting. If you're having a great time taking photos and you're enjoying yourself, it makes your photos better. Like, if your mum bakes you a pie and it's made with love, you can taste it. But if she's really angry at you because you racked up a $70 phone bill playing Lego Star Wars on her BlackBerry when she wasn't looking, the pie doesn't taste as good. If you're stressing and nervous, or it feels like work and not play, that will show through in your images, even if it's very subtle. And a really big part of becoming a great photographer is the process of trying to take great photos for ages and failing over and over and over again. That's the process they say to trust, and that's the process that will make you into a great photographer if you can keep going. Push past the failure and discouragement and keep your attitude positive. Doing all of that is a hell of a lot easier when you're having fun and when you enjoy using your tools. When your camera is full of personality and it's exciting, you'll want to pick it up and try again the next day. And for me, that camera is the Nikon ZF. Is it perfect? No, I wouldn't pick this camera as my first choice for shooting sports or wildlife, but I can confidently say that I'd be very comfortable using this camera for anything I shoot. I honestly have to say that sending this camera back to Nikon later today is gonna hurt my feelings a bit. I really love it. It makes photography fun again, and that to me is priceless. I think I'm gonna have to buy one. If there's anything you take away from this video, it's to ignore the spec sheets, the dynamic range, the frame rates, the burst, whatever, the special SD cards, and just go to the camera shop and play with them all until you find one that gets you really excited to create. If this video made you feel like you need to go and buy more gear, I'm so sorry. Don't worry, I'll fix it. I made you a video about gear minimalism, which you can watch here. Did I get it right this time? Is it here? Stay hydrated and create art.